Maddie, and welcome to the latest episode of Falling Upwards, the place where you get to hear all about failure, whether it's good, whether it's bad, or whether it's just nothing at all. But someone who is not nothing at all, she's a whole cornucopia of joy, is Maddie Armstrong, my co-host. Hi, Maddie.
Hi.
Woo! How are you doing today?
I'm okay. You said cornucopia, and I immediately thought of Hunger Games. Wow, that took me a while.
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen... You know what? I recommended the Hunger Games to someone this week. They were like, I've seen, what franchises would you recommend? And I was like, well, Hunger Games is all right. I've enjoyed some of the Hunger Games films.
I've not seen it.
What? Ever?
Yeah, I've seen like snippets of the movies. So I've seen probably enough snippets from like the first film to sort of make up the whole thing over the years.
Yeah.
I think we read the book in English in school, but yeah, no, I've not seen the whole thing.
Oh, interesting.
We know Maddie doesn't indulge in many of these nerd franchises.
No, indeed no. But of course, you do enjoy many nerdy things, nevertheless.
Yes.
With that in mind, of course, we kick off with mad news. What would an episode of Falling Upwards be without mad news? Maddie, what do you have for us this week?
Today we had this random man in our house.
Sorry, what?
Should I just stop it there? No, there's this dude. There's not often a man in our house. So this is new, but he was there to change.
There aren't often unfamiliar men in there.
Yeah. He was there to change our internet from copper to fiber optic. We've been using copper for a very, very long time. And no wonder, I'm thinking, because yesterday, one of the clients that I shot a wedding photography for, she was like, Maddie, where's the photos gone? I haven't seen them up for the last 2 weeks. And I was like, I mean, I didn't say this like in a petty way, but I had told her at the beginning that I couldn't keep it up forever. So the file will be up for this period of time for you to download it, and then it'll be gone because storage limits, and Maddie can't afford a subscription to the online service. So she was wondering where it had gone. Obviously hadn't read that bit of my message, but it's fine, whatever. And I was like, yeah, it will take hours to re-upload, so if you just make sure to download. Because she hadn't downloaded them before. You know what she did? She screenshotted all the photos. 1,000 photos! And she screenshotted each one of them. Instead, that would take more effort than downloading them. So
sorry, she screenshotted 1,000 photos.
Apparently. So yeah, because of our copper internet, it took hours and hours for me to re-upload all of them for her. Like, I think it was like 5 or 6 hours.
Sorry, that's just blowing my mind that she screenshotted 1,000 photos.
Yeah.
But that, like, I say this as somebody, so at some point today, I'm going to be cleaning out. I do this every so often. I like clean out my computer for like all the random screenshots and stuff I've taken. And even after a month, even though I've accumulated maybe anywhere from 50 to 100, I'm like, oh my God, this is such a pain. 1,000 just sitting there screenshotting. Oh my goodness.
Which would take longer than just downloading the whole file because your computer zips it and everything.
I cannot.
That explained everything as well, because when she posted the wedding photos on like socials, they were low res. Because when and I was thinking, why does that look that way? Because, it was this really nice quality when I sent it to her. It's because she screenshot it, MA. It obviously doesn't display it in HD on the website. So she just screenshot that. And it's been there for like months.
I can feel your distress through the microphone. Oh my God.
You spend hours of your life editing these photos really beautifully to make sure every detail, is done perfectly. And then there's some people that, like, it's fine if they're not that type of person to really care about the tiny details, but It's quite shocking.
Well, I would think as well, surely because like with wedding photos, people might want to blow them up to put them in a frame, or just even just to print them out like on really nice glossy paper to like frame or send to people or put on a canvas or something. You'd want them the highest res, no?
Yeah, some people are just so chill though. Like they just don't care about.
Not her. She's like, I'm fine
Yeah,
with
they
it.
they just don't care about like details of things. It seems like a really happy lifestyle. Anyway, so that was just to illustrate how rubbish the internet was before, and now it's gonna be better, hopefully.
You know, two people who do care very much, Maddie. That's Naveen Andrews and Ethan Suplee, who are our guests on the show this week. They are here to talk about their new show, The Pradeeps of Pittsburgh. You may have listened to our episode last week with the lovely Sindhu V. Naveen and Ethan play the two main dads on the show. We're really excited to hear them talk about all of the different hijinks they get up to in the show. And of course, Maddie has not heard this interview, so you get to react right alongside her as we hear them chat for the first time. Are you ready, Maddie?
Yes.
Thank you both very much for chatting to me today. It's been a pleasure watching this show, so just as much a pleasure being able to talk to you both.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
I'll start with Naveen for a little moment. You've played some ridiculously iconic characters across your career. How does Mahesh compare to the roster that you've played before? And has working with him and working on him as a character brought out anything new about yourself that you didn't realize beforehand?
Well, I've never done anything like this before. I don't think I have. I mean, I've never played somebody so relentlessly optimistic, almost irritatingly optimistic. There doesn't seem to be any rancor or bitterness with this human being, and if anything, it's almost like a code of living. It's like something that one can aspire to. I certainly would aspire to be like Mahesh. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes him unique. He genuinely believes that with the best will in the world, he will prevail. And there's no aggression to it, you know. It's just a very calm self-belief.
That's beautiful. With your British background as well, and obviously in the show we see Mahesh coming to America and acclimatizing to American culture for the first time. Did you find any kind of similarity in that? The fact that you have also kind of made that journey coming to America and getting to know what that's like a bit more in your career?
It was very different, me coming to America from England.
Yes.
Say that. So there's a huge difference there. But in terms of like growing up in the 1970s in England as the child of immigrants, there was a certain kind of darkness, if you like, and it was hard. It was not easy. You know, it was like open hostility, really, at that time. And I dealt with it very differently to Mahesh, let's just say that.
Ethan, your character Jimbo is, I think, one of the most rewarding characters to watch on the show, because you do see him just through these little moments grow and develop, and you learn kind of, he's like an onion, you peel new things about him every single time. How did you approach the character, especially that he's one that I think many viewers would expect to fit into stereotype, and you see clearly very much so that he does not? I will just pause here to clarify for listeners. Mahesh in the family is the very, very wholesome dad of the Indian family that have come across from India to Pittsburgh. And the reason why Ethan's character Jimbo is so interesting is because his family are characterized as super conservative Christian, and Ethan is a very tall, very bearded man that I think very much fits the stereotype that people would have in their head of the kind of person that might be quite resistant to other cultures or other religions or other backgrounds. And he's actually very much not that. He's quite a wholesome dad.
Oh,
Yeah. it was exciting because I am a father, and being a father and a husband is kind of the most rewarding aspect of my life, and so I was super interested in getting to pretend to be that as well, because I think for the majority of my career I've been kind of boxed out of that type of role. So mostly I just concentrated on that, and it was the idea of like, what am I doing for the most part to keep my family intact and sane and happy. Um, and then through that I get to learn also, through my interaction with my wife and mostly her reactions to the new neighbors, and going like, oh, I can't let this fire get out of control. It was a lot of fun.
You talked about being a father, and something that is very beautiful about the show is how both dads are very much good dads in their own way. I think we are reaching this new era of really good, wholesome TV dads. Was that something that you were both very conscious of as you were working on the show, kind of how your characters were making commentaries on not just fatherhood, but also kind of what it means to be a spouse as well?
I was certainly, I spent my adolescence blaming my parents for an awful lot. And then I became a parent and went, oh my goodness, my parents did their best, and they were actually amazing parents. And I think we are all kind of trying to do our best, which is something parents don't often get given credit for. We can be highly critical of the way people parent their kids. And I can even sit here as a parent and be highly critical of myself, and have learned from things that I consider mistakes in my own past. But I definitely wanted to show that whether you agree with Jimbo or not in how he's going about certain things, he is earnestly trying to do what he believes is right.
Yeah. I would agree with Ethan in the sense that, I have two grown-up sons now, and I have an empathy for my parents and what they went through that I never had. I wasn't able to feel it, and I really regret that, because they both passed on, and if they were around now, I'm sure we would have a much better relationship as a result of being a parent myself.
This is what we were talking about last week
Yeah,
with Sindhu.
yeah.
It's like the circle of life. You don't understand your parents as a kid, you get older, you understand them. I should hope it doesn't take becoming a parent to understand them, but sometimes it does.
What Naveen said really struck me, like how his understanding has changed, but obviously his parents have passed on, and it made me think of, as we're recording this, last week Liam Payne died,
Oh gosh, yeah.
and Zayn from One Direction, you could kind of, he mentioned, this is not verbatim in his statement afterwards, many things that he didn't obviously get to say. And I don't know, do you ever think about that? The idea that because life is so fragile, there is stuff that you might never get to say to somebody that you care about, whether it's just it's too late or you didn't think about it till they left, or
About people that have already passed?
no, for like people that say that you might have close to you now, but it's just you might not realize that it's something unsaid, do you know what I mean, until they're no longer around and you're like, oh my god, I wish I had said this or that. Or
With me, I'm a bit of an oddball, but one of the most important things to me is like honesty, but that includes honesty with yourself. And sometimes it requires digging deep and really
mm,
kind of yank something out of yourself. Um, and so I don't think I personally would have that problem because I'm always candid with my feelings with people anyway.
mm,
You know, like
mm, yeah,
friendships and connections with people are so important.
mm,
With friends that I don't even talk to for years, what
mm.
always happens is we'll just talk and we'll end up talking for hours, and one of us will always say it feels like no time has passed. And I feel
Oh,
like everyone would be the same if they were just sort of more honest, not just with others but with themselves.
yeah,
It's important because you're right, life is so fragile, And connections are way more important than people's pride.
Mm.
And, you know, trying to just,
And we do take a lot for granted, don't we?
yeah.
Especially like the people that you see often. You can take kind of whatever their relationship is with you, or however they react to you, you can just kind of be like, well, they'll always be there.
I think it's
That's what I always worry about that, like with, especially with family, because you see them so often, and like every so often I'll be like, have I genuinely appreciated the fact that they're in my life today? Have I done that? Do you know?
that's
Like,
something everyone should do. I do think it's easier for women to do, though.
do you think?
Like, we're just better at telling people we love them.
Both of your characters, not to spoil what happens on later in the show, have an episode in particular where you both bond very beautifully. And it is a wonderful comedic episode to watch. You both bounce off each other, and to just see these two kind of adult men dads just bonding and trying to learn more about each other, even with those culture differences. What did you two do to cultivate such a genuine looking relationship and friendship that really comes across on screen?
We genuinely got on, which always helps.
Yeah.
But also what you were talking about, that actually happened for us. At least from my side, that's how I feel. It's like we're able to like literally like riff off each other to do stuff that wasn't actually in the script. You know.
Yeah, I believe I know what you're talking about, which Naveen and I have still even referenced it this morning before you signed on, and that is a situation where I think neither of us have any experience whatsoever, and we're then rehearsing this thing and spending quite a bit of time. It was quite cold, which I try to escape the cold as much as I'm a little bit of a sissy about the cold. And then we're there with frozen fingers and toes and doing this thing we have zero experience with. And it was just like, even just the rehearsal, the time we spent before, when nobody was shooting, while they're setting stuff up, really lent itself to our relationship on screen, I think.
Oh, fantastic. Do either of you have a favorite memory from the show, a favorite blooper, a favorite behind the scenes moment that you can share with us?
Well, again, I don't know what we're exactly, if we're allowed to talk about this, but my favorite thing was me and Naveen outside doing this physical thing that neither of us had any experience with. And it was just this like magical couple of days. It was so much fun. And anybody who watches the show will know exactly what I'm talking about. But we were like actively trying to be these super masculine guys who had, experience doing this physical thing, and it was so much fun.
Super masculine is right, and that was my favorite part of it too. Their attempts to be super masculine, yes.
Yeah.
I think in this streaming age, there is so much TV these days, and audiences are desperate to see how every show actually brings something new to the table. They want to know and feel how they're discovering something new in the vast sea of things they could be watching. What do you think the Pradeeps of Pittsburgh brings that is new to the table, and why do you personally think audiences will connect with it?
It's like a fist in a velvet glove, isn't it? In terms of what it's addressing, but it's done in a certain way that's it's quite sort of, it just slips under without hitting you in the face. We know these immigrants, we know they're going to face a certain amount of adversity, but the way in which it's portrayed is, I think, unique.
Yeah, I find that because Vigil, because he is telling a version of his life story, there's the ability to be maybe less delicate in a way that isn't harmful to anyone. He doesn't come at it from a way of like, I hated my neighbors. He liked his neighbors. He was fond of his neighbors. And so you get all these characters in a situation where they can all be very honest, and it's not being told from a point of view that's overly delicate, which I think is useful sometimes with some subject matter, certainly. but then you don't get some of the nitty-gritty with that kind of storytelling also.
Charming element about the show is, of course, because you have the different their perspectives. Sometimes you're playing the same character from a slightly different angle, even if it's exactly the same scene. How did you both enjoy doing that? Were there any approaches you took to making sure that you could create a slightly different version of your character every time?
Well, hopefully that happened to a certain extent automatically in terms of reading the text.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I felt a lot of empathy for, I don't know what we're not supposed to talk about necessarily, so I want to be careful saying this, but the I think in some of the sequences where it was most obviously different points of view were these interrogation sequences, and I felt empathy for the interrogators because there would be times where it would be like, okay, it's a lot for me to have to redo this scene from a different point of view. I understand that, but I would go like, okay, the guy sitting across from me has had to do this all day with every other cast member, and the biggest change is like they're going to shift the camera 2 feet, and now you're doing the same scene from a different point of view. And I was like, I can't, I can't be. I have to be on my game just to support them. You know what I mean? Because it's heavy lifting for them.
That's nice of him. Because like a lot of in some productions, you know, the big shot stars, they are very pampered and they may not necessarily really care about the smaller talents in the room, but he seems very considerate.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is there is an episode much later in the series where you do get to see the two dads bond. I'm not going to say why. It's a wonderfully funny setup, as you would expect from a comedy. And I was so interested to hear about their take on it because something I was talking to about with Mads just before we started was there are so many movies where you see like women and girls just doing fun things to bond and become friends, and it can be any silly thing. Whether I feel like the stereotype is like they all go shopping or they all do makeup, but like I think in latter years you've got like more diversity, so it can just be like them hanging out or like going to the skate park or whatever. Whereas I feel like the stereotype more with guys is they, in movies and TV shows, is like either they're like doing macho things or they're doing, and it's like the hangover and it's like silly, like bro things. And often it's a younger kind of crowd as well. Whereas it was nice just seeing like two dads, two middle-aged men bonding. It felt like a nice, healthy, friendship-based thing. I think there's this stereotype as well, isn't there, where it's like women find it easier to maintain friendships and have like an emotional bond than men do because women are encouraged to do it and men aren't. And I was like, how lovely that they spend an episode showing that.
We like healthy friendships.
Yeah.
Healthy masculinity.
Yeah. What does healthy masculinity mean to you, Mads?
A guy who isn't like misogynistic, of course. A guy who will build others up and not feel the need to put them down to big himself up, because that's the best way to build yourself up, actually. And a guy that takes care of himself, has good hygiene as well. Who washes every part of himself in the shower.
Who covers all the anatomy.
Yeah. Don't be skipping anything. Yeah.
Is this a moment to remind everyone of Maddie Armstrong's legendary message, wash your ass?
I think they've already got it, yeah. Yeah, what about you, Emma?
A lot of those points are similar to yours. It's like a kindness, it's a self-awareness, it's an understanding that vulnerability isn't weakness, that emotion can be strength, and that empathy is more important than shouting. It's a lot of things that I think are naturally considered feminine, but they shouldn't be considered feminine or masculine or anything. Actually, it's just all part of doing your best.
About being a good person.
Yeah, it's like, like none of us are perfect, so it's not like we're all wonderfully empathetic and happy, and it's not that we do things great all the time, but it's like if you endeavor to do those things as much as possible, you shoot for the moon, but you might reach the stars, like that, right? I get really heartened when like I hear friends of mine that have kids, especially young boys, that are encouraging them to understand like what it means to cry healthily and why it's important to be able to cry, and like what it means to allow yourself as a young boy to show emotion. What does that mean? Why is emotion important? Why is it important to talk? Why is it important to care about people? Whenever I hear that, I'm like, yay, next generation. Woo.
There's still people that just will never get it. Like there's still like generations that will sort of point at people having those conversations and think, how weak have men become? And it's like they will just never get it.
That's what I thought was so lovely about both their characters in the show, because, and I said this again to Mads before we started, I think they're two of the healthier parents on the show. Not that they're perfect, but healthy in the sense that they try to listen to their kids. They don't react to things with violence. They're not perfect parents, because nobody's a perfect parent, but they listen and they want to learn and they want to find solutions that don't resort to like screaming at things. And that in itself is, I hope when people watch that, especially if there are like younger people watching it, they'll be like, oh, actually that's what a healthier dad or like masculine role model should be like. They're not perfect characters, but they're healthier characters. Do you have any favorite TV dads?
Ooh.
Like, I'm a big fan of Bob from Bob's Burgers and Beef from The Great North. Both very wholesome TV dads.
Oh, it's difficult to like think about on the spot.
Like Lucius Malfoy from Harry Potter, not a good TV dad. Darth Vader, terrible TV dad, well, film dad.
Have you seen Daddy's Home?
No.
It's this comedy with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg in it. And at this, like, there's the stepdad who's present, and then there's the real dad who decides he wants to become present. And at the start, they're both not very good dads. They're sort of like being really petty and really childish and sort of like trying to fight their way, to win the spot and whatever. And they end up having this sort of bonding thing where they realize, actually, we can co-dad this.
We love co-dads.
And at the end, I think I like them both at the end.
Oh,
because they're actually being proper dads and not sort of competing or just doing the most extravagant, like buying the daughter a pony just because it's a showiest thing. Like that was something that actually happened. And well, if I was still a kid, I would have been over the moon to get a pony. That's not the point. Yeah, I think that's a good dad movie.
I love that. Well, we do, of course, have them telling us their favourite failures. Are you ready, Mads?
Yes.
I sometimes think about things that I regret, and I ultimately want to go like, I'm very happy. I now have grandchildren, which I think is a miracle. I've been sober a long time. Like my life feels like a fairy tale. So I can look back at every time I failed, and there's a point of view where I regret it and I think I wish I knew then what I know now, but then maybe I don't arrive where I am today. And then that's scary because where would I be? I don't know. I'm pretty happy with where I am. I don't have a specific failure, but I do think about my failures quite a bit. I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
It doesn't, but it was a nice answer.
It is interesting to think though that he's like, actually, the failures, no matter what they are, like if they hadn't happened, maybe a good thing in my life now wouldn't have happened. Like, it's like
Yeah,
that
who was
sliding
it
doors,
that
like butterfly effect kind of thing. Do you know?
who was it? Was it Jay that said, like, a similar thing?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes good things happen because of bad things.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you want bad things,
No.
but it's not all doom.
That bad thing might lead to a good thing without you even realizing.
Don't try to fail, though.
No.
Just,
No.
do your best.
Intentional failure is not necessarily the thing either.
I'm not sure if I have any favorite failures because I'm quite hard on myself, so I'm trying to rectify what might have been amiss in the way I've lived my life. So I don't know if I would call it. It's something that I would nurture.
Again, I feel like Mads, you're a bit unsatisfied. That's not actually a specific.
That's not a failure.
No.
That's worse than your mum.
But
That's worse than saying. Oh wait, no, that's worse than your mum. Like in your exchange thing. That's what I mean. Your mum isn't a failure.
to be fair, we did have the most legendary failure ever last episode. So it was always going to be hard to compete, no matter what you said.
Sorry, I know I get strict about these things because I like a good story. If my mouth doesn't become the shape of a circle, then
Yeah.
that is a failure in itself. I'm waiting.
We always say Falling Upwards is a show where failure is fine, but not when it comes to the failure itself, because Maddie Armstrong will judge you based on your answer. You can fail on giving an answer about failure because Maddie will deem whether or not it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Maddie is the ultimate arbiter of failures. That's her official.
I don't know how I feel about
Position.
that title. Seems a bit backhanded.
No, but it's like you're deeming whether it's worthy of. Maybe one day we'll have like a big board, and we'll put like our the best favorite failures on it, and I feel like you would be the one to pick what deserves to be there. Do you know what I mean? So Naveen and Ethan, we loved you coming on. It was fantastic, and of course stick around to hear their sign-off messages.
If you could share one piece of, whether it's media, whether it's a hobby that you're really loving right now, that you would recommend to our readers and listeners to try out, that you think will enrich in their lives, what would you contribute? It can be anything you like.
I'm super into meal prep right now. And I think that cooking for yourself is highly rewarding. So you know exactly what's in your food. You can be in control of it. And I'm loving meal prep right now.
Perfect. What about you, Naveen?
Say instead of picking up your phone, pick up a guitar and meditate for at least an hour.
Wow, nice. That's all very wholesome.
Have they redeemed themselves, Maddie Armstrong?
Because they're they're quite specific.
There are genuine things that you could do.
Yeah.
Like our listeners could go and try meal prep or play the guitar and meditate. Like genuinely right now.
They could give us a meal or a song. That's how they could take it a bit, one step higher. But
you know what I was seeing a medical professional the other day, and we were talking about perfectionism, and she was like, the problem with perfectionists is that they know what they want, but then when they get close to it, they move the goalpost, and you have to learn not to move the goalpost. And I feel like the low bar was like, just give us a thing. It can't be like an abstract thing or your mum, because we can't do that. But that's okay. And now it's like, we got a thing, but Maddie got, well, no recipe. Well, no song.
Sorry.
This is why Maddie's photos are so good.
Thank
She's
you.
like, well, I did the baseline thing, but now actually no, I've got to do more, which is great for your work.
How are the One OK Rock ones?
They're great.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone go online and see Maddie's One OK Rock photos. That's what she's asking about. So next time I'll tell, we can tell our guests to be even more specific. Maddie Armstrong, the ultimate arbiter of both failures and hobbies.
Ka-ching.
Yeah. If she doesn't approve, then
we'll just persuade them.
Yeah.
We'll just use language to persuade them.
Next time I'll dig in deep. I'll imagine you sitting on my shoulder being like, be more specific.
Yeah.
Be more specific. But everyone,
Yeah, I've got like a fork in my hand, and I'm just like jabbing your head
Oh my
a little
God.
bit. Like I'm this tiny creature on your head, and like every time you don't give them enough suggestion, I'll just like give you a little prod. What the fuck?
Oh my goodness. So we hear their sign-off messages?
Yeah, why not?
Take it easy, man.
Yeah, take it easy is pretty darn good. You know, I think be present and everything's ultimately okay, which is just a less eloquent version of take it easy. Take it easy pretty much nails it.
Would Mahesh and Jimbo also be saying that, do you think?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, a version of that, certainly.
Take it easy. That is the overwhelming response. Just take it easy. Things will fall into place. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
I don't know why we've made this episode Does Maddie approve of
Sorry, I
contributions?
feel like a
It's amazing, but I just didn't think it would take this turn.
like an exam marker. What do you call it? An invigilator?
Like an examiner.
What's an invigilator?
The people that like walk up and down the halls to make sure nobody's cheating.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of feel like that as well. Sorry I guess.
This is the new standard. Maddie Armstrong is the new standard.
I am always watching.
Is that your sign-off message as well?
Yeah, it is.
You are always watch. So any listeners, turn around. Maddie will be there right now. Or like when you go to bed tonight, when you wake up, Maddie will be at the foot of your bed. That sounds like a really sinister.
Do you think I'm quite terrifying?
I don't think you're terrifying at all. I think you're the most like gentle, sensible person ever.
Oh,
But maybe that makes you like the perfect horror movie villain. I don't know. Gosh, that's quite the turn, isn't it? We were just talking about a comedy, a light-hearted comedy, The Pradeeps of Pittsburgh, and now it's like Maddie, the scary judgeinator horror villain. And it's just like you pop up at the end of people's beds. What would you do though? Just like tell them that they haven't put their socks on properly or something?
I tell them to give me a good recipe. Tell them stop talking about your mum. Tell me something different. Tell me something interesting. I would demand a good story, and then I'd go away. You're a bit frightened.
Yeah, that's quite terrifying, I think.
Oh, okay.
My sign off will then be don't move your goalposts. Enjoy your achievements. Don't move your goalposts too early. The Pradeeps of Pittsburgh is out right now on Amazon Prime Video, and thank you very much to the lovely and generous Naveen Andrews and Ethan Suplee for joining us on the lawn. You can check out our previous episode with Sindhu V if you want even more of a Pradeeps fix. Maddie, do you have anything else you want to add before you pop up at the end of someone's bed after this episode?
No.
I am aware this is an auditory medium, so you cannot see. Maddie has a very sly look on her face right now. So if you have ever wanted to live your best horror movie life, Maddie Armstrong may show up at the foot of your bed and ask you for a story before giving you a recipe. Thank you as always for listening to Falling Upward.
Bye.
Bye.